Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club. Tonight we are discussing We Are Satellites by Sarah Pinsker, which was our book pick for the month of May. My name is Chloe. I run the channel Brunette Bibliophile, and tonight I'm here with my friends Kathleen from For the Love of Books and Desiree from Libri Labra. And we're going to spend the next hour or so talking about this book. Excuse me. So, if you've never been to one of our live shows before, we usually do the synopsis and then spend the first 10 or so minutes talking about our initial thoughts on the book, and those are going to be spoiler free. And then we will go into spoilers and discuss everything else we'd like to about this book. So, does anybody want to start with the synopsis?
I can start if you want. So in this book, we are following a family of 4 across several years, and it starts when there's this new piece of technology that's being introduced, and very few people have it. It's called a pilot, and it's kind of something they implant into your head that like connects to your brain, and it's supposed to help people be more aware and increase their ability to multitask and stuff like that. And so it's originally come out and it's being given to younger kids. And so the family that we're following, like a few people in the family get it and a few don't. And you're following what happens to their family and how things change and how the perception of the pilot changes and just society changes. And so that's essentially like the entire book.
And do you want to go ahead with your initial thoughts as well?
I don't know. I know this was like a bit of a sci-fi. I don't know if I was expecting it to be quite so much slice of life. I think the slowness of it in the beginning made me feel like it was going to turn into like a major horror story a little bit. Which it was still slightly horrifying when you think about it, but not to quite the degree that I was expecting. But I still enjoyed it. I feel like it gave me a lot to think about in several different aspects of society and technology and a few other things. But
And what did you rate it?
I want to say that I give it a 4.
Kat, do you want to go ahead with your thoughts?
Okay, so I was actually pretty excited about this book because I love sci-fi books. But this was a little bit of a disappointment. Not in a huge way. I still liked the story and I liked the whole concept of a pilot because it is very, I feel like, realistic to what kind of future we're seeing the technology head into. Um, but I guess my issue is that I just thought the story was a little underwhelming. It's like Desiree said, was very slow in the beginning, and I felt also that it was going to have like this big maybe plot twist, and it was going to be like exciting government take over the world kind of thing. I just thought it was going to head in a different direction, but the story ended up being very like normal, and in some ways I can see why some people would like a story like that because it would seem more realistic. But I just thought that this story was just underwhelming, and I felt like it could have been like, with the premise of the story, it could have been bigger, I guess you could say. So I did end up giving this book 3 stars. I liked the whole concept. I liked the story. I did like that it was a little bit more realistic, but I guess I was just expecting more out of it, and that's not what I got. I got a very normal story from very normal people and very normal reactions, and I guess I was just expecting more explosiveness, more technology trying to take over the world kind of thing, and that's not what I got.
I have to say, I think we are all within agreement of we all thought something like there's going to be a big twist, like the government was going to take over. That's what I was expecting while I was reading it. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I didn't really have any expectations going in with this book. It is something that is different from what I normally read, so there's a bit of branching out on my end here. But I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't wowed at the same time. It was just very, as it was said earlier, slice of life. And I kept waiting for the big twist that never came. And overall, it just felt very, not straightforward, but there wasn't really anything exciting for me about it. For a while, I did bounce between a 3 and a 3.5. But I did end up sticking with a 3-star rating for this one. So I don't really have too much to say on it. I also did kind of rush through it, but I felt like it had
that was your fault. What?
Because she mentioned, like, earlier when the 3 of us were talking, she mentioned that she had the audiobook for from the library for We Are Satellites, and I was like, hey Chloe, I'm the one hold on that book. Just don't, just like,
and it ended up working out though, because like completely unrelated to the book itself, I started like listening at a higher speed but still comprehending, and I feel like I haven't been able to do that in a while, so it ended up working out. But the point of like the rush through is like actually the short chapters that it had actually really helped with it. But basically overall I just gave it a 3-star. And I guess we can go ahead and go into spoilers with whoever wants to start.
One thing I will say, I did like that they start, like, the pilot wasn't something that was, how can I say this? Usually, like, sci-fi books, I feel like they introduce like this technology that like is gonna basically, not saying that this didn't, but it just feels like it's a lot scarier, and you could see like the potentials of like the AI taking over and kind of thing. But it started off as like something normal, and I feel like it's like something that people like, if this kind of technology was introduced today, I can see why people would drop money to get this thing drilled into their heads, surgically inserted into their heads, because it wasn't a technology that was going to make you smarter. It was a technology that was supposed to make you concentrate more or be more focused, or that allows you to multitask or focus on different things of what you're doing. And I think that's a really cool kind of technology, because I feel like with everything that we have, like so much technology at our hands, I feel like people are distracted easily. I mean, I can say that I'm very distracted easily, so I feel like that I can see why so many people jumped on the bandwagon when this technology was introduced in the book, because they mentioned about how when it first started, only a few people had it, but then a short time later, a lot more people had it. It was a lot more common to have it than to not have it, and that if you didn't have it, you actually were left behind. As far as, like, for example, in the kids' school, that one, I forgot his name, but the one son wanted a pilot so bad because he was getting left behind because everybody else had it. So I can see how the technology is becoming integrated into society, because again, I could see in our world right now why the reason people would get it.
And I'd like to say that I'm glad that the author chose to show us a family of 2 people that have it and 2 people that don't, and one person who specifically couldn't have it because of her, I don't know if it was epilepsy specifically, but she had seizures.
Yeah,
she had seizures. She couldn't have it. And I'm glad that it was kind of portrayed like that. Like, okay, this person has it, this person got it, this person can't have it because of XYZ conditions, and then this person is choosing not to have it. So I felt like we had a good wide range of perspective within this family.
I'm so sorry. I need to be excused. I will be back in as soon as I can.
It's up to us. Let's
yeah, and I like. Yeah, it's kind of like what you said, and it's also like the other person in this one family. It was her choice, so you had one person who cannot have it, and then the other person who made a choice not to get it. And so I did like seeing the dual perspectives, on, and then, and then you have like the two people in the family who do have it, and they have very different experiences when it came to having the pilot installed into their head.
And, I think I remember I had texted you guys about this. This was a week of like branching out for me, and it was like too much all at once. Like I watched a movie that freaked me out. Didn't like that. Then it was Silent Night.
Okay.
I just happened to be in the room while Will was playing it, and then I got invested, and then I did not have a good time at the end. But then a couple days after that is when I started this, and then I was listening to this for like 3 days, and I was like, this is too much. This is too much stuff that could really happen that freaked me out.
Yeah, and I did like that. We mentioned during our first few minutes of the live show that the beginning did seem a little slow, and it was. And I was just like, you were texting me how you were feeling about it, and I was just like, yeah, this doesn't feel like it's progressing anywhere. It's moving very slow. But at the end, I did like that it moves very slow, because it kind of gave us a glimpse on what a very normal family with a very normal technology. But then I was expecting, at the end for like the technology to all of a sudden, become self-aware and take over everybody's brains. But that's not what happened. But I did enjoy that the beginning was very slow, and it was a reasonable technology that I could see people going for.
I don't know why I just thought of this, and there's not that many years between you and I, but you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. In the first SpongeBob movie, where they all have the bucket hats,
Okay,
and then they take over and they're like zombies. That's what I kept expecting to happen.
Yeah, I was just like, I had so much hope, especially because the book does have really rave reviews, so I was expecting for it to be a book I would really enjoy. And I was trying to like take what you were telling me when you were reading it with a grain of salt, but then it turned out to be very right. But I didn't hate the book. It was fine.
Yeah, because I tried going into it with an open mind, like knowing that this was something that I don't read. I'm not even going to say often, ever. And not really I wasn't like expecting great things. I also wasn't expecting disappointment, but like I tried to go in with an open mind. I think that I did. And that's all I got.
Yeah. And yeah, so was I was trying, like, after what you told me, I was trying to be like, okay, hopefully this is better than what she's saying. How did you feel about like the son who had the implant and then it didn't work out for him? I can't imagine. I was trying to imagine. Obviously, I don't have a pilot. I don't even know what that's like to be able to focus on so many different things at once and be 100% alert to all of these things that you're focusing on. And like when he was trying to explain to people like about how loud it was, I was trying to imagine that. And honestly, the fact that he can't escape the loudness and nobody would believe him, it was interesting to read about it.
I can't remember if this was a 2020 or 2021 release, but I think it hits very home to some current issues, in the sense where it's like some people just, they have these symptoms, these issues that they try to explain and nobody believes them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we see more and more lately, and it's freaky. But it's a very unfortunate thing that's really happening.
Oh yeah.
In our world.
I was thinking that too.
And even after he got it shut off, and then did he ever get it taken out, or he just got the light shut off?
I think in the beginning, I think he just got it shut off, and then, to be honest, I don't remember how it ended now. But I think he ended up removing it. I'm not sure, but I remember when he initially just shut it off, and it still was loud. Like the loudness.
That's what was freaking me out. Like he was still having these issues even after it was shut off. It's wild.
Yeah, and I felt bad that but then again, it's like you said, that's something that a lot of people go through, the fact that nobody believed them, and they kept saying, oh, do this, are you sure you're doing your exercises? I'm like, I'm pretty sure he did his exercises. And it's very reminiscent of what people are going through nowadays, or even
sorry.
No, go
ahead. The realization that the pill that he was taking to like quiet everything down was created by whatever the company was. And it's like they knew that this was happening to people, and they're like, this will shut everybody up.
Yeah. And it was, yeah. The thing is, if he had this experience, but then one of his moms, like she had the pilot, she didn't have this issue. I almost felt bad for him, because he saw like how many people are having, like he wanted it so bad, and he saw how many, how people were having such success with it, and then he was the one who couldn't. Even his mom had success with it.
I want to jump ahead here to the train incident, because for sure, I was like, I thought he was going to die in that instance. I mean, he just lost a foot, thankfully. I mean, that's not good either, but I was like, he's dead.
Okay, sorry about that. Put some of my input in here. I think, like from the very beginning, when the mom and he got it, while he was like complaining about the noise, I was like, I think one of them has ADHD. Like, I wasn't sure who it was going to be, because with Julie, they had said something about coffee not helping her. And for people with ADHD, a lot of times coffee or any kind of caffeine, instead of being like an awake stimulant kind of a thing, it puts people to sleep. And but that noise that he kept complaining about, I was like, oh my God, that just sounds like ADHD, where you can't like turn anything off. Like everything is distracting, everything is in your face. And as they started to talk about how there was that one person who had the pilot for like a really long time, and they took it out of her, but she still retained like everything, I was like so worried about David that whole time, because I was like, he's never going to be able to turn it off, even if they take it out at this point, because his brain has adapted to being that loud. But like, just imagining that he may have already had ADHD, and then they put something in there that totally amped that up even further. Like that's horrifying to me.
Did he have ADHD? Did they ever say that?
Yeah, they definitely mentioned ADHD, and they said that he had a rare form of ADHD. They didn't say what the rare form was, but they did say he had a rare form of ADHD, which was why that medicine like quieted his brain. Like, because he was having a panic attack like right after he took it, because he was like, oh my God, this is going to make everything so much worse. And then it was just like smooth sailing after that. And despite the fact that, I may have been waiting for something more dramatic, I still feel like there was a lot of dramatic things that happened. And the fact that there was this pharmaceutical company creating these things and then trying to sweep everything under the rug, and how much it became a status symbol, and how people were being judged all different ways, whether they had it or didn't have it, or the fact that there was just like all these different brackets of people, like some people that just had the light to pretend that they had it, but they didn't really have it, and how that just warped society's perception because of this one piece of technology. But I think of all the storylines, David's was the most exciting and most dramatic because of all the things that he went through. I mean, I thought he was going to snap on somebody and like kill somebody is what I thought was going to happen, especially going into the military. I was like, he's going to come back with PTSD. Who the hell knows? Like I was just so worried about him, like the whole book.
And at the, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, in the fact that he did go to the military, and, it is not a secret that the military does sometimes experiment with their soldiers. I know that there was a story that came out that not recently, a long time ago, about how they would give him like these types of pills that keeps them awake for longer periods of time. But the fact that he went to the military and this was happening to him, you're right. Yeah, he was gonna come back like just commit mass shooting at everybody and then just turn the gun on himself or something. But that didn't happen. So I'm glad he had some kind of like happier ending than what I was expecting him to get.
I mean, but essentially he kind of turned into a drug addict when he realized that those, it's kind of crazy. I don't know. Have you ever seen Requiem for a Dream? That movie is so intense, and it's about drug use, but it's also about how like what you think about drug users may not always be correct, because it can happen to literally anyone. But it's a movie that like came out in 2000 something, and I just rewatched it this weekend. So there's some parallels there in regards to what ended up happening to David and how he ended up becoming addicted to that stuff, just because it like quieted his mind and he was wanting that so much.
Slightly off topic, but when you were mentioning like military experimentation and all this kind of stuff, we just like maybe a couple of hours before the live show did our like movie afternoon, whatever, and we watched Idiocracy, and it started with military experimenting. So it's like all the connections here.
I don't remember. Did it ever come out in regards to what Sophie had done by stealing his ID? Like, did she ever confess to that?
I don't think she confessed, but I thought that they had made a copy and like had somebody else like break in or whatever to the place.
Right, but that was the reason why he got fired. Like months later, they fired him because they said that somebody with his ID.
I don't think she ever got caught, but I'm not sure. I don't remember now.
That makes me uncomfortable.
What?
Like the fact that she was just, I don't know, that's pretty shitty to do that to your relative. That she like took his ID and made a copy and then like never ever fessed up to it. I don't know. That's just, because even Julie, who was hiding things, at least got busted and apologized and whatnot. But to do that to her brother, who she was so close to, it just, I don't know, that seems like such a betrayal. But I guess if it never comes to light, then it doesn't have to be talked about, or it doesn't put that that divide between them, I guess.
Yeah, but I think at the time she was just thinking about her cause, and I think her cause became her whole life, whereas people care more about their families. I think the cause became her family and became everything that she cared about. So,
did anybody else think that the ending was going to be longer than that? Like, there would have been like maybe some like, I mean, I guess I would have thought that there would have been some denial at first, but I mean, I guess when you have all these reporters there, when they're telling the world what the deal is about pilots and shutting off the lights and everything. Like, I guess it spread quickly, but I feel like I thought it was going to be like extended a little bit.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect anymore because the way I envisioned the novel was completely different. So at the point, the way it ended was just like, I'm not surprised by how it ended. So.
And I don't know if this was ever addressed, but whose kids was Sophie and Dave? Was it like one from each mom, or were they just like who?
Was it ever addressed?
I don't know.
I don't remember if it was ever addressed.
Because sometimes the way the moms reacted towards the children, sometimes it seemed like one had more of an investment in one child than the other. You know what I mean? I could have just been like perceiving it that way, but that's what it felt like in the story. Because I know,
see
like,
what you mean. I see what you mean, but I also don't see what you mean. Because, I mean, are you saying that because one might not have been biologically related to the child, that they weren't as invested in that child?
That's what it seemed like sometimes. Like sometimes, you know, one mom was a little bit more hands-off than the other, depending on who they were talking about. But that could just be my perception. So I don't know if it was ever mentioned or whatever.
I don't think it was mentioned. I'm trying to remember, but...
Or maybe both kids just perceived the different moms in different ways. But I know that Val was the one that kind of like went off on the recruiters. And then Val was also the one who made the promise to Sophie not to get a pilot.
I think maybe it seemed like they were each... I think it may have seemed that way because one parent ended up being like, oh, the pilot could work out really well for me, and got it and related more to
the kid that David had the pilot. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas the other parent probably understood, like, she
how Sophie
couldn't
was
have
doing.
one. She was still hesitant about it, and then ended up. I think that's where you were thinking that.
I know they mentioned at like the beginning of the story that Julie worked for like a local politician, but it felt like they only kind of like dropped that hint in the beginning and then picked it back up at the end. Like, I kind of wish there would have been a little bit more about that throughout the story. I don't think I got a super clear picture on all the things that like Julie was doing and how her pilot was helping her. So I kind of wish there had been some more of that.
I know, like, kind of towards like the 1/3 point, maybe. There was briefly a scene where she was at work, and I think not like the politician, but somebody else that she worked with was saying like, oh, you should consider getting a pilot, blah, blah, blah. And I think she'd already had her mind made up.
It was up for promotion. I think that's what it was. Wasn't she up for a promotion? And then she wanted to get the pilot to give her the advantage. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because it was her and one other person up for the promotion.
Mm-hmm. And she said something like, oh, I need to talk to my family first, but she really already had her mind made up.
And I know we've kind of said that this felt very realistic, like something that would happen. And I was trying to think about that. You know, what if like a piece of technology like that was offered now what would that look like? Would that look similar to what we've seen like with vaccines? Would it like
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially because this is in the pilot itself in the book is drilled into your brain. It's inserted into your brain. So the fact that people don't get vaccines is going to be the exact people who are not going to get the pilot. I don't think in our society, maybe in the world, but in United States, I don't think it will be as accepted as it was in the book. Like the book made it seem that like almost everybody had the pilot, and it became like so mainstream. And then there was just this small group of people who were against the pilots, whatever. But I can see that. I feel like there's going to be like this great divide, just like with the vaccine.
And I don't know if it's because I've just seen that many dystopians or like sci-fi movies or whatever, but like I was trying to think, like if this did happen, would I get one? Would I want one? And all I kept thinking though was like, but what if everybody had one and then everybody was like, like they just flipped a switch and then all of a sudden like everybody was just being controlled by like this thing that everybody voluntarily put into their heads.
I mean, I'm speaking frankly, if this was something that would come out, I wouldn't personally get it. It's one thing to get a vaccine that will save your life. It's another thing to get something that's just going to make your life a little bit better. And because it's surgically inserted into your brain, I don't know. I feel like brain surgery is a little scary. I probably wouldn't do it.
But think about that. Think about like, okay, so you wouldn't do it, but everybody at your job does it, everybody else in your family does it, or like, and just the way people were without it were being seen after that. Like they weren't good enough or fast enough or smart enough or efficient enough.
They almost like became like outsiders. It's like I forget the name of the daughter who didn't get the pilot because of her epilepsy. I remember one time they mentioned that she got put into a different class for students without pilots because she was falling behind, and also they made them others. They made them outsiders, and yeah, I can see like the peer pressure of people wanting to get pilots because it's becoming so commonplace. Would you get it?
It's weird because I'm always like a technology early adopter, right? Like when new technology comes out, I'm like right there and I want it. And I don't know, this one, the idea of it is scary. I mean, probably because it gets put into your brain. Like if it was something that you could like wear or put on and take off and it was some other kind of enhancement maybe, but the idea of like,
yeah, I think for me personally, it's just the idea of having to have it inserted. And like with David, the fact that he had so many issues with it, and then he couldn't, like he went to the people who inserted and he wasn't able to get it turned off or get it removed, and it was his body. It just felt really dystopian to me. And so like you said, if it was something that I could wear and then I could take it off at the end of the day or any time that I wanted, then it's something that yes, I would do it. But the fact that it is inserted and you can't move it yourself unless you want to like kill, like, do some creepy black market surgery kind of thing, that's what freaks me out a little.
Yeah, I absolutely hated that nobody was listening to him and the way they were talking to him. Well, have you done the exercises? Like, yes, like.
Yeah, and me and Chloe were talking about it. It's not like this is something that a lot of people nowadays, especially females, face, like that they go to the doctor and that they're describing their symptoms, and these, especially like, well, maybe nowadays it is happening, but like maybe back in like a couple decades that they were like made to feel stupid because they were like, "Oh, did you do this? Are you sure? Is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Are you being a drama queen about it?" It
Like,
feels like
nothing wrong with your device.
Exactly. Like all your tests came back normal. Like that's just like gaslighting the person. And I feel like, that is so reminiscent of what the things that we've seen. Maybe some of us have experienced this. And so, yeah, it made me like that when he went to the doctor multiple times and they told him the same thing. And I was just like, really? Like, listen, listening.
Yeah, the fact that the synopsis says it's set in a near future, and the fact that I was like that this would happen, something would happen, except it would be like a government takeover. I'm like, it's getting real. It's getting too real.
So you would not get it, Chloe? If something like this, something similar to this came out?
You remember my SpongeBob analogy I made with the bucket slaves? That's what this is.
But yeah. But what's funny is that people were saying, like, the conspiracy theorists about the vaccine, they were all being like, there is like some kind of device in the vaccine that's gonna like take control of your body, and I'm just like, you people are stupid. But again, it is very reminiscent of the pilot. You're getting something inserted in your brain, and there's like those people who are always being like, and the government's they want to do this because they want to take over our brains, and I'm just like, okay.
It's like if they were going to if they were going to do it through vaccines, let's put it that way, then they have had numerous opportunities to put it
and
through a vaccine. I mean,
the thing is, people don't realize. The thing that people don't realize, it's much easier to infect water than it is to spend billions and billions of dollars on a vaccine, somehow insert it into the vaccine, and then get people to take the vaccine. I'm just like, if the government was that smart, they would insert it into things that we normally consume and we don't even think about it.
I didn't mean to send us on a tangent. What was I going to say? Crap. Oh, what was it? Did they find a solution for turning the noise off for him? Like, were they able to find that prescription that he was calling quiet?
I don't remember now.
I don't think so. I don't remember now, but
I think he learned to live with it.
I might have to reread like the last couple chapters. Because I
don't think there was,
because it was obviously available, right? Like people were getting it from somewhere. So if the company was already creating it for that purpose, then why wouldn't he have been able to get it?
Yeah.
Would either of you read anything else by this author?
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't hate the book. I guess I expected more out of it. And so because I was really excited going into this book and I had high expectations because it sounded really cool and it didn't quite meet my expectations. That's why I rated it 3. Like, I really liked the concept of the book. So I would definitely be willing to read more by this author. It's just that my expectations weren't met, I guess.
I'm not sure. Again, I'm kind of in the same boat as Kat, where it's like I expected a little bit more from the book in the sense of like there was going to be a huge plot twist and there really wasn't. But this is also a book that's kind of outside of my comfort zone. So I need a couple of palate cleanser romances lined up before I go into something else like this.
How about you?
I do actually have one of her books. I got it at like BookCon. I forget what it's called though, but I think it's about music in a pandemic. So
that also sounds too real. Too real.
So
But you say you got it
at BookCon.
right.
Like
So that's literally the year before COVID started.
Oh, wow.
Because we went in 2019. That's funny. Okay.
It's too real, guys. It's too real.
Yeah, I was able to get like a signed copy from
I'm
her.
looking it up now.
So how many books has she written? So she's written like a couple books? Or?
At least a couple. I don't know if she's written more than that.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. At least 5 or 6.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the pandemic music one.
How did you? Because you were the one who suggested this, Desiree. How did you find out about this book? Is it because you got one of her books from?
I had one of her books, so I recognized her name, and I had gotten this book in particular from Neck Alley.
Okay, because I was like, I never heard of this author, and so sometimes it always surprises me when an author with like her book, this book has really good ratings, and she's written a couple books, and I never heard of her.
At BookCon, I might be a little bit off because it's been a while, but I feel like there was something that I signed up for where you got to meet 3 authors and get 3 of their arcs before they came out, and she was one of the 3 authors.
Okay.
And so like there was one author that I definitely wanted to see.
Are these the arcs that you lost in your lost USPS package?
This one I didn't, but yeah, it was part of like that. The 3rd book I lost. The 3rd author.
I'm telling you, have the worst luck with mail.
Do you remember how many books was in the box that they lost?
Oh my god. Probably like 7 or 8.
I always watch, like, it comes up on my TikTok feed, like boxes that people have bought from USPS or wherever of like lost or undeliverable packages, and I'm just like, I know Desiree's box.
I'm still so mad about it. I'm so mad about it. Yeah, there was a lot of books in there.
Reading the like synopsis.
Sorry, I was just going to ask. Were they all books that you got at BookCon? Or
yeah, they were all books that I had gotten at BookCon.
Okay.
Like I put some in my luggage, but then I put some to ship back to myself.
Reading the synopsis of the music of the pandemic book, I'm like, yeah, no, too real. It's too real.
What does it say?
It's basically like concerts or public gatherings are illegal, so which makes concerts illegal, and it's, let's see, where is it? Where did it go? I saw something about deadly viruses. It's called The After, where there's terror attacks and deadly viruses leading the government to ban concerts, basically, and it's called The After, and I'm like, nope. Or
when did you write this?
2019 is when it came out. And hold on. There's this line was like, Rosemary barely remembers the before times. That's literally what I call the pre-pandemic. I always say,
oh my god, the before times.
Guys, it's too real.
We need to talk to Sarah. She needs to give us some more insight. It's a pilot, the next thing that's coming out.
Like, how did you know?
Wait, when did I guess I could look it up. I was gonna ask, when did We Are Satellites come out?
That one came out May of 2021.
Ooh, that's pretty recent.
What is her last name?
Pinsker.
This is too real.
I must be spelling it wrong.
Pinsker. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's called A Song for a New Day. Is the one that I have that I've been wanting to read. And that one was published, like in 2019. Something that we didn't touch, I don't know if we kind of just said it briefly, but the family did have two moms. And there was a point where like Sophie came home with her new friend, I think it was Gabe, and she announced his pronouns. And I thought that was really nice to see.
Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
Sorry, I was scrolling back on the author's Instagram to see if she said anything about like how she predicted the future, basically.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine what that was like to write that book and then have things like.
Yeah. What if she was just like, guys, I didn't need to predict the future. It's too real, guys. It's too real.
Well, I liked it, and I would definitely read her other book. I'm super interested in it. I'm one of those people that, like, if I'm experiencing things that are slightly out of the norm, I obsess about every movie and every story that includes anything like that, because I feel like it helps give me, I don't know, like a foundation for what I'm going through. So when the pandemic started, I was watching like a shit ton of pandemic movies. And I know for some people, they're like, no, it's too real. I don't want to. But for me, it's just like, what could happen? How could this go? What do they do? Because, some of that is just founded in reality. So
have you seen Contagion?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones that I watched.
That's what I was just about to bring up.
That's the one that everybody
That's what I was going to say.
Because, yeah.
That's what I was going to say is like stuff like Contagion or like psychological thrillers in the sense where it's like this shit could really happen. That's what freaks me out.
I watched Contagion. I watched Outbreak. There was another one that I watched. I also watched like Netflix had just put out a docu-series called Pandemic. I watched that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I laid in bed and I read a bunch of books and I finished up my classes.
Yeah, but I've always loved like end of the world movies. So yeah, Contagion, I watched it when it first came out, and then I rewatched it during pandemic too. But it was so similar in a way.
That's why the Silent Night movie freaked me out so much. It wasn't like a horror in the sense of like gore and jump scares and stuff like that. It was like basically this like poison gas cloud is coming, and like there's no way of stopping it, and it slowly kills you and like
kills everybody.
So the government created a death pill that everybody it's on Christmas that everybody has to take at the end of the day, and they like die in your sleep basically before this poison gas cloud comes. And it's not so much like that the poison gas cloud could actually happen, but it's like that the government created the death pill, and I'm like, that shit would happen. That's too real.
So what are we reading next month?
Well, do we want to do final thoughts real quick? And then
I thought we did. Yeah, my final thoughts at this part. Yeah, I give it a 4. I give it 4 stars. Any story that's slice of life tends to be a little bit slower, but I think it's important to consider that there was like major time jumps in this story, and so you're essentially following these characters throughout their life, So, I think that's kind of what made it feel a little bit slower, but definitely there were gaps of time and major time jumps. But I still thought it was really interesting. I thought it gave me a lot to think about, and I feel like it's a story that's going to stay with me for a while.
So for me, I gave this book a 3. I enjoyed the concept about it. It's very realistic, and I can see something similar to a pilot coming out in the future, in the very near future. But I guess I just expected the story to go bigger. And it was just, to me, it seems like a very normal story about a very normal family. And so I was kind of, again, expecting it to just go somewhere different. Maybe like we see some like government conspiracy things going on, but that's not what happened. And that's not to say that the book was disappointing in any way. I did like the book. I guess it just didn't live up to the expectations that I had, because the premise was really, really interesting. And I am looking forward to see what Sarah Pinsker comes out with, because apparently she came out with a pandemic story before the pandemic started. And so now she's coming out with a advanced technology book before we could see this in the very near future. So I'm excited to see what she will come out in the future, and I am excited. I will probably read another one of her books just because I think the concept that she has is really interesting.
You're like, I want to see what part of the future she predicts next. I gave this one 3 stars. It was very, not super outside of my comfort zone, but enough outside of the comfort zone to where I'm like, I'm going to take a step back, especially after reading the synopsis of the pandemic style book, because that's just, it's too soon. It's too real. So overall, it was just okay for me. One thing that I thought about while Kat was talking, though, was, and it might have been said like this in the synopsis, it's we're following essentially a normal family as they navigate this new technology, the future, essentially. And overall, it was just a 3 for me, and that's pretty much all I have on it. What month is it? June. For June, we're going to be reading, and I have a picture of it. I don't have the actual book, but I have the cover. We're going to be reading The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This is also sci-fi, which I also feel might be too much too soon.
I think it's also a romance, though.
Okay, that might save a little bit of it, but the sci-fi like future elements and stuff, like it's hitting too hard right now. Kat, you're muted.
I was gonna say that this is a sci-fi romance.
It's the sci-fi is hitting a little too hard. The what is this called? The tagline on the book says, "Can their love of books and pop music save the world?" So we're going to be reading that in June, and our live show is going to be on Sunday, June 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Also coming up in the next couple of months, Pages and Pals will be on Saturday, June 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be over on Kat's channel, which is linked down below. And then this one's not for a bit, but in July, Desiree and I will be reading Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma for the Quarterly Romance Book Club. I was like, what's our other book club called? I can't remember. And then our live show for that will be in early August. So there's a little bit of time for that, but if you'd like to join us for any of those are all of the dates. And that's all I got. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? I think we covered it all. All right. So then on that note, we will see you all next month. Well, hopefully we'll see you at Pages and Pals, but we will see you next month when we discuss The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. Bye.